Hello, I'm Sarah, otherwise known as Yarnmugs on Instagram and Ravelry. I usually do a podcast where I chat about my knitting, sewing and crochet and books that I've been enjoying, but I thought I would do another sew along. I did one the other day and it was really well received, and I've had loads of lovely comments, and I'd already had 2 dresses cut out, so I thought I might as well share with you the next process in making another dress. So I'm just going to show you the fabric and the pattern that we're going to be working on today. So today I'm making a dress made from this pretty sort of lilac-y coloured fabric with the pink and red, what look like roses on. And again, it's a cotton fabric. And I'm going to make a hack or a mash together of the rosary bodice, and then I use the Hinterland skirt, and I'm also going to add some ties and do a bit of a keyhole back. So this is at the front, but I'm going to do the keyhole at the back. So make my own bias binding rather than on here I've had facings before, and I don't like the way that fits or lays, and I've really enjoyed bias binding edges. So that's the plan. There's the fabric all cut out. Let's see how we get on. So one of the first things I need to do is match some thread to the fabric. So I've got the fabric here, and I've got this pink thread, which, you know, it's not a complete match, but, you know, even as a little contrast. I don't know if you can really see that. It's not too bad, because otherwise the only other colours I've got are white and cream, and they really stand out, so I'm not going to use them. I tend to use Gutermann thread, and that's only because when I was taught to sew, that's what was encouraged to be used, and it's easily accessible. Someone also was asking me if I could show setting up, so yeah, this might be helpful to some who aren't aware of winding the bobbin, and so I'm just going to show you that. So what I tend to do is make sure I've got the thread running underneath. I've taken off the little cap that goes onto this stalk and push that on, and then put the cap on, and then I need to wind this thread around this sort of little tension disc, and then thread it into one of those holes. I'm just going to put you down because I'm sort of holding. I'll just leave you there. So I'm just going to thread that, pull that tight, thread the thread into one of the holes. Okay, now I'll pick you up again. Oh, I've pulled the thread out, hold on. Okay, so I've got my thread going through one of the holes. You pop the bobbin on that metal bit, and you have to push it or pull it across to here. You then hold that little bit of thread poking up, and then press your pedal, and after a few goes I then snip that bit off, and then carry on pressing my pedal until the thread is full up, and it often touches this bit and stops working. So I'll do that now. I then snip that bit of yarn, move that back to the left and take it off, and then I need to thread the machine and the needle. So to thread the machine, you need to turn this dial here towards you, never backwards, so that that arm is up in the air. There are numbers, so it tells you to go, make sure I do it right. So I go round 1, then, oops, and then, sorry, down into 2, up to 3, and then you sort of have to just pull it around so it clicks like that into 4, and then down this little gap here to 5, and then thread the needle, which I'll do now. So my needle is thread. I now need to put the bobbin in, so there's a little thing here. This is obviously just for this machine, but most machines are similar to that. You grab your bobbin so it looks like the letter P, so this thread is hanging to the left rather than a Q with it to the right, so it's to a P. You pop it in there, and then there are a couple of little metal bits that you have to get it in. Let me make sure I'm showing you right. So I just hold my thread and push it into the first one, and into the second one. I don't know if you can really see that, but there's like just a little groove. Just make sure that's going in that groove. And then when you pull it, the bobbin turns around. And then I tend to put that plastic bit back on top. And I hold onto the needle thread, turn the dial at the side down towards me. I'm pushing the needle down into the bobbin, and then it will come up again. And when it's come up, you just give a little pull. Oh no, I don't think I've clicked that in place right. Let me do that again. Let me just unthread that bit of. So let me show you again. So it looks like a P. I pop it in. I'm hooking on to both of those little metal bits. Oh, I've done something not quite right. Maybe because I'm saying it out loud, it's I'm doing it wrong. Right, let me do it. Sorry about that. I think it was just because I was doing it one-handed. So I did exactly that. There's 2 little metal grooves that you have to put this thread through and then pull it towards the right. Put this plastic thing back on top, make the needle go down and up, and then with a bit of a pull, it brings that bobbin thread up as well. And then I tend to always make sure it goes into that kind of gap of your presser foot, and put all the threads behind. Right, the machine's ready to go. I'm just going to do a test run just to make sure the stitch is all right, and the overlocker test as well. And yeah, that's looking nice. You can see lovely, neat stitches with no bunching up with the tension. I'm just going to do the overlocker now. Sorry, it's going to be a bit noisy. again, that looks perfect, lovely, nice and neat, all set to go. Okay, so my sewing machine and overlock are all ready, and I'm just going to do a bit of preparing for the first bit of sewing. Now this skirt panel is going to have pockets on, so I've got my pocket pieces already cut out, and I have a really nice way of attaching pockets. I feel like I know exactly what I'm doing with that. So I'll show you now. So the way I attach pockets is I have a measurement. I know that this works for me and my body shape. And this is just a lid off of my pins. So I don't ever use a tape measure, I use a tool. And that's the place where I need to put my pocket piece. And as with all sewing, you need right sides together. So there's the pocket piece that you're gonna just place along the edge of that skirt piece of fabric. And then I'll just put some clips in here, and then the other side of the skirt I'll do the same. I'll put that little bit of plastic and then place the other pocket piece there, right sides together. So you can see it's like that'll be the inside pocket bag, and I'll do that with the other piece of skirt fabric. So one is the front, one is the back, and they'll both have pocket pieces with exactly the same measurement from the waistband to where I like my pockets to be. So I'm just going to go clip them in place. So my pocket pieces are all clipped on. This is very stable fabric, so you don't need many clips, it sort of stays in place easily. And then the plan is now I'm going to sew a row of stitches along here. I then like to open it up and then sew another row of stitches to kind of really secure it in place. And I'll do that to all 4 pocket bags so that it's really, really secured. Okay, so I've sewn those pocket pieces on that I was telling you about, and then you can see there where I've done an extra row just to really secure it. I'm now going to join the front and the back skirt together, and I'm going to join the side seam up. So you have the pockets out, and you're going to sew around and then around the pocket piece and then down the rest of the skirt length. Do that for both sides of the skirt, and that's the skirt joined together. And all I also will do is add 2 rows of gathering stitches to the top, so it's all ready to be gathered for the bodice. And that's the skirt done, apart from the hem. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I just wanted to share a little tip that I use for making sure your stitches are straight. And obviously you have different kind of measuring bits on here, but the big thing I find is that when I'm actually sewing, it's like, where do I look so that I can ensure my stitches are going where they're meant to be. So you can see here I've done a row of gathering stitches, and I wanted to put a second row in, and some people say that they end up looking at the needle and you sort of go a bit skew width, but what I tend to look at is this row in relation to where it is on the presser foot. And so as the fabric is going through, I'm always ensuring that this row of stitches remains at that part of the presser foot. The same as if you were measuring where your fabric is in line with this bit of presser foot. Always keep it the same, so then your stitches will be the same. Hope that helps. So I've sewn my 2 rows of gathering stitches, and they're all the threads left loose for me to pull and make the gathers. And I'm now going to join the side seams of the skirt, and you can sort of see here I'm not going to start my sewing up here, otherwise that will interrupt the gathering. So I'm going to start it a bit below, work my way down, work all the way around the pocket piece, and then the remainder of the skirt. So I'll do that now. Okay, so my skirt is sewn together with my pocket bags, and I've done the gathering stitches. Just as a reminder, and I tend to often forget, the gathering stitches I do on a longer stitch length, so stitch length 4, and then for my normal seams I go back down to a 2. I'm just going to show you a little bit so you can see the inside, to see what it looks like with the pocket bag. So you can see there's where I put my hand in, and I don't know if I can really, it's nice and neat, just with that double bit of stitching for that seam. Yeah, I absolutely love pockets. It's so easy, don't be frightened by inseam pockets. So yeah, all done and all ready for pulling on the strings. I might just show you that now, just so you can see what it looks like, because there's lots of strings here, but I tend to grab just 2 of them. So again, I'm just trying to grab the 2 stitches corresponding with those rows, and as I pull, the other thing I was going to say is I do the gathering stitches on the front and the back piece, so 2 separate pieces rather than doing a whole circle, so then you can really get nice even gathers for the front and the back. So let me show you a bit. I turn this down so you can see what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm going to grab those two threads. I'm going to hold my fabric and you just pull, and you can just see it starts to gather together, and then you can just shuffle them along, and that's how you make the gathers. It's so easy, but I would definitely say do 2 rows, then you get real nice even distribution of gathers. And I tend to sort of do it for a bit on one side, and then I go to this side of the skirt and pull the gathers that way. So you've got kind of, again, you're evenly doing it, and do that front and back. So that's the skirt then, all ready to go. Now onto the bodice. So I'm going to work now on the back bodice of the piece, and there are waist darts in here, but I'm going to leave the waist darts off because I want a bit more of a looser fit. And I have physically just drawn on a bit of a keyhole here, but I don't think I'm going to actually cut it out. I think I'm going to just mark this dot here and then follow the instructions for this spring dress, because it really explains about how you join the 2 pieces together, and then where you make adjustments for this little split. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to put that marking and then follow those instructions for, again, as an image, it's that I'm going to make that opening where I'll end up joining all my bias binding. So I'll do that now. I've sewn the back bodice up to the notch where I want the opening, and now I need to press that seam open and carry on pressing those little bits open as well. So let's do a bit of pressing. Well, actually turn the steam off. I don't think I need the steam. And again, it's just a tiny, it's about a centimetre folded over there. Actually, I'm just going to check that because I've got a funny feeling that had to be ½ cent. Just check my pattern, and that was correct. It was a 1 centimetre fold on this opening, so it matches the 1 centimetre seam all the way down. I now need to secure this in place, and I have to do stitches down to where the opening is, and then across here, and I'll probably sort of do a little bit of back and forth just to secure, and then go back up, and that's your little seam for your back opening. So I'm now onto the front bodice. So this pattern suggests bust darts and waist darts, but I'm just going to do bust darts to again give me a bit of a looser fit at the waist. So I've snipped these 2 edges indicating where the bust dart starts, and I'm going to now do that. I have a really useful tutorial is Tilly and the Buttons, how to do bust darts, and that's what I tend to use. So check her out. She's got loads of fantastic tutorials. So as well as the little snipped edges, I also have marked where the dart will end. And then what I tend to do is right sides together, fold to get those little snipped bits matching up, and then find where I put my little dot. And what you then want to do is draw a line to make a triangle from this bottom notch to that dot, and that's the stitching that you'll do to create the dart. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my little ruler and draw a row of lines to guide my stitching. So I've sewn my darts. See these little triangles which gives you the shape. They need to then be ironed down. See, it's hard to see on this fabric, so sorry. But yeah, you can see that flap of triangle, and then that's what gives a bit more of a nice bust shape. You can see that, hopefully that seam there. And what you want really is that dart should really touch your nipple, I suppose, like the fullest part of the breast or bust. Sometimes I've had some darts look like they're going upwards or downwards, and it's like, these are really lovely. These particular darts have a nice sort of straight line, and they seem to fit me lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and iron that down, those darts down. And I do tend to iron after every kind of bit of sewing, so that sort of really sets the stitches. And then I think I'm just going to place this up against me so you can see the shape of the neckline on this. It's a fairly high neckline, and so when I add my bias binding, I'm going to have it invisible, so that neckline will be what it is. Yes, I'm going to iron the bust darts down, and then I'm going to join the front and the back bodice together. It's coming along lovely. So I ironed my bust darts down, and I tend to iron it on the inside and the outside and make sure it's all lying nice and smooth. I've joined the shoulder seams with the clips and the side seams with clips, and what I tend to do now is try it on to see what the fit is like, and then that gives me a guide as to how much seam allowance I need to make for the shoulders and the sides. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so that's just starting to come undone there. So you can see here where the bust darts fit, which is almost sort of centre of the bust. I'm quite happy with what that neckline looks like. So again, thinking of where I've got my clips there, that's probably like a 1 centimetre seam allowance. And anyone that watched my last sew along knew that this part was really tight on me last time. But look, just without having those waist darts in, I know some people will, would like that more fitted look, but I just feel like I've got several dresses like that, and I just need this one to be a bit looser. And again, similarly, it's about 1 centimetre I've got down the edge. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do 1 centimetre seam allowance on the shoulders and down the sides. And it's not too loose, it's not huge, but it just gives me just that little bit of extra room here. And I'm really happy with the length of the bodice, because my natural waist is quite low, and I would never have a bodice down there. but some of, when they're too small, they're literally just under my boobs, and that's too high and makes me feel like a bit maternal, like a maternity dress where it stands out too far. Whereas if it's just a little bit lower, but it's above my natural waist, that's what I tend to think, like an inch above my natural waist, that's where I like it to be. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. Not too tight around my back. Right, I'm going to go ahead and sew that. Right, so I'm now going to make my bias binding, and I showed this technique on my previous sew along, and looking at these pre-cut strips, I can tell now why my previous bias binding was shorter. I didn't have as much fabric. So these are quite long, and as previously mentioned, you lie it flat, and then right sides together, you sew that one like that, so it sort of makes a right angle, and you sew from the corner to that corner, and then that creates the lengthening strip of stretchy bias. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just having a cup of tea. I've just bought a little cakey treat, Mr. Kipling's. I love Bakewell, I love almond, and I love jam, and yummy. So here is my bias binding all sewn together, and again you can just see it's stretchy. On the other side you can see where I have joined them on the angle. I've just got to trim that excess off on all those bits, and then I'll be ironing it to create that bias binding shape, which generally is you turn in the end, you fold in one side to the center, and you fold the other side into the center, and that creates your nice bias binding shape. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'm now going to attach the bias binding. I've folded it in half, and I've clipped the ties to keep out the way for the time being. I've got my center front bodice and the center of the bias binding. And I'm going to open up the bias binding and keep the raw edges touching each other. And I'm now going to clip all the way around. And then what I'll do is when I sew it, I'll be sewing along that first little crease line. So I'll attach this now. So I've sewn the bias binding on the first crease, like I showed you a moment ago, and I'm now in the process of folding over the rest of the bias binding to the inside of the bodice. But before I did that, I did trim half of the excess fabric off, because as I fold this on itself, I don't want it to be too bulky. And you can see how when I fold it on itself, there is no bias binding on the outside, it's all on the inside. But again, I've cut away fabric so it's not too bulky. So I've just got the last little bit to clip. I just wanted to show you how it's all clipped in place, but really neat, and sort of marries up with that folded tie at the end. So yeah, it's a really lovely effect, very neat edge, with no raw edges showing, and then the attachment of the ties just makes it even lovelier. So I'm just going to carry on folding it in, and then in one fell swoop I'm going to start at one end of a tie and stitch it all closed together, so it will be like top stitching on the front of the bodice. See you in a bit. just show you the bodice so far. Quite pleased with it. So the neckline, you can just see the top stitch in there and the bias binding at the back, linked in with the little tie. So that's how, in fact, let me just tie it up and show you. It's a really lovely feature. You know, if you don't want to add a zip to a dress or a button at the back, you know, these bias bindings just finish it off lovely. It's very neat. So there's your little bow. Twist it a bit so it lies a bit flatter. And then it's easy just to pop your dress on without, you know, so easy opening. I'm showing you it nice enough, hold on. So yeah, there's the back with that little gap. And then the front. And the front with the nice neckline, just nice and neat. And the bust darts, you can't really tell like that, but yeah, I'm really pleased with it. So now all I have to do is attach the bodice to the skirt. I do need to add on the sleeves, but I don't know if I'm going to have enough time today to do that. So, oh, excuse that noise. But what I might do is just pin everything together so it's ready to go, and maybe finish sewing tomorrow. I'll see what the time is. But I'm really pleased with that bodice. Isn't the fabric pretty? And again, this was just some vintage fabric that I got at a sewing retreat. It was just, everyone brings in something they don't want anymore and you put some money in a donation pot for a charity. So I think I put £10 in the charity pot and I got this bit of fabric and the yellow fabric I made the dress the other day in. So win-win for me, and yeah, £10 for charity. So yeah, see how I get on. Oh, this sewing is so addictive. You think you're going to stop for a break and then you think, oh no, just do a little bit more. So I've now attached my bodice to my skirt, right sides together. So if I look up the skirt, the bodice should be there. Yeah, the right way round. I have made that mistake before with sleeves and bodices where one's inside out and one's not. So yeah, it's always good to check. And I just sort of had to readjust the gathering just to make sure everything fitted. I think that all looks okay. So I might as well sew. I'm just going to do a 1 centimetre seam allowance, or mainly I do enough seam allowance to encompass both those gathering stitches. So I'll just go outside that. And that's what I'll use as my guide as I'm going round. So I'll do that now. So this is the dress so far. Skirt is attached to the bodice. The skirt is a bit long, so I will hem that tomorrow. But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with it. It looks a bit of a sack, and I am a little bit worried that maybe I should have put the waist darts in here, but we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. And also I haven't got any sleeves on, so I just need to attach the sleeves. But I've neatened all the edges inside. They've all been overlocked, and yeah, I've overlocked the edge, so I'm probably going to have to do a double turn to turn that hem. I'm loving that though, that's very pretty. Yeah, so I'm hoping to finish this tomorrow. I'm going to stop now because it's getting on and I'm running out of steam, but I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Hello, this is a few days later. Excuse the train. yeah, this is a few days later. The last little clip I showed you was my dress with the bodice attached to the skirt. This is now inside out. I think when I tried it on the other day, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm happy with it, but I've tried it on this morning and I feel a bit better about it. I have ironed up the join. You can see I've overlocked that join as well. And yeah, ironing just definitely makes a difference after you've done each part of your sewing. So yeah, I think I do feel I feel all right about it. The bodice is a little bit longer. I compared it to another dress that I wore the other day. It's about an inch longer, which again, on my yellow dress that I was making, I kept really saying, I really need the bodice to be a bit longer, but it's such a fine line getting that measurement right. Anyway, I'm going to go with it. At the moment as well, the skirt is very long, much longer than all my other dresses. They tend to be about 22.5 inches long from the join, and this is 28. And I haven't ever really worn a longer dress or a midi dress, but I do like the look of them when I see them on. I follow a lovely Instagram page called Plum and Pigeon, and she makes dresses that I would love to. I'd love all her dresses, but the style is definitely something that I try and copy. And a lot of her dresses are longer. So I'm going to just keep it long at the moment, and I'll hem it and try it on once it's all finished and see how I feel. But at the moment, I now need to add the pockets. And first of all, I just need to add my gathering stitches to the head of the sleeve, and then I'll be joining it to the sleeve opening. Now again, these sleeves are very long. I don't ever normally wear long sleeves on dresses. I tend to have them, short. I have got one dress that I've got it to about here with a little bit of elastic, and I really like that look. And again, on Plum and Pigeon, she has a lot of that kind of length, so not down to my wrist. I do think these might be a bit long, but I'm gonna, oh no, maybe not. I'm gonna do what I just said. I'm gonna put the gathering stitches in, and then I'll insert them and try them on before I hem them and put a little bit of elastic in. So let's see how we get on. Okay, so I have sewn two, I don't know if you can really see it here, 2 rows of gathering stitches between 2 little snipped areas that are the same on both sleeve heads. So that's ready to be pulled in together. And I've also sewn the side seam of the sleeve as well. At one point I did run out of my pink thread, so the bobbin thread is now cream, and I've got a tiny bit of the pink thread, so I'm just going to do it like that until I have to end up just using cream completely. Okay, so now I'm going to pull on my gathering threads, and just to create the sleeve head, gather and make the sleeve cap fit into the hole of in the dress. And I think I said last time I like to gather those stitches right up to the top to create that little puff. But in a minute I'll just measure. Sorry, the other thing I was going to do, I'm just making sure my 2 little slits are in the same place, and so then your gathers are equal on both sides as well. Okay, so I'm just going to do the other one. So I'm just going to pull on the 2 top threads and just pull the gathers to the top. I might just do it on the other side as well, just to make sure there's some gathers there as well. You don't need to do much at this point until we can get it in the dress and see if it fits. And again, I'm just trying to find my 2 little slits. Where are they? finding my two little cut slits and then even out the gathers so it's gathering on both sides. Just need to do that one a bit more. Okay, so this is just a start, just so we can fit this in. I've got a funny feeling I'm going to have to make much more gathers because this seems quite a big hole. So I've got my dress inside out, and I need to turn my sleeve the right way out. And then I'm going to pop the sleeve, but do it the right way round. The gathers are going to be up at the top. So pop my sleeve in that hole. And then what I tend to do is at the actual crease point of the sleeve head, I'm just going to clip in place just initially, just to see how much more we need to gather it in. And I do the same at the bottom, so get that seam matching up. I'm now thinking what I might do is take this out and just overlock this seam first. I'm going to do that and I'll come back. So I've speeded this part up, but I just wanted to show you how I insert my sleeve into the bodice sleeve hole. And I've got my bodice inside out and my sleeve right way out, so both right sides are touching each other. And what I try and do is find the top of my sleeve head and clip that into the top of the sleeve of the bodice. And I also try and clip the bottom where the seam is of the sleeve and the seam of the bodice where it meets the armhole. And then very carefully I just sort of put a couple of clips in, working my way either side, just making sure all the fabric is nice and even. And I get to a point where I might have a bit too much fabric, so I just have to kind of even out the gathers. Sometimes I've gathered it a bit too much, so I have to sort of loosen it off a little bit. But again, just work slowly and carefully up, put one clip in one side and then sort of go to the other side, so it's all very even, and you know that the fabric has really been evenly distributed with the right amount of gathering to fit into the hole. It's really, really straightforward. It's just a bit fiddly sometimes, but just once you've got the basics of making sure you've got your right sides together, and you just take your time with the gathering, and it should all fit nicely. I love them clips. Clips are so much easier than pins at times, and there you go. So I've put the sleeves in, and I thought I'd show you it on before I make a decision on the sleeve length and the leg length. So you can see the puffiness on the tops of the sleeve. Happy with the neck, happy with the bust darts. Like I say, I didn't put bust darts in here, and I probably could have done a bigger, deeper seam allowance. I think I did 1 centimetre, probably could have done a bit more, because it is a bit loose there, but I wanted a little bit looser. I've got my pockets in my skirt, so I'm still trying to make a decision whether this feels like it's too big. And regarding the sleeves, there's plenty of room, but they're slim fitting sleeves, and I just need to decide how high up I have a little elasticated. I don't really want it right down to my wrist, and like I say, it's a cotton poplin, so it's not a thin, it's quite thick. Probably what I should do is just roll it up and get a sense of where do I want my sleeve length to be. I want to see a bit of wrist, but you don't want it so far up that it keeps sort of rolling up. And then let me just show you down so you can see how kind of long. I'm used to wearing my skirt sort of at my knee, so just being that bit longer. Is it long enough to be midi? So I think probably what I would do is turn it up and then wear it and see what it feels like. But yeah, what about that sleeve length? I think I might be able to go up a little bit higher. So we're nearly there. It's nice and soft, but like I say, this cotton poplin is quite thick, so it's not drapey. And I need to iron it where I've sort of just to smooth out all the creases. But yeah, what do you think? I just realised I hadn't shown you the back of the dress. It's lovely with that bow. So I've sewn my hem. And I have had to use the cream cotton, but or the cream thread, never mind. And I've turned up my sleeve hems, but what I've done is I've left a little gap here, and I'm going to measure some elastic around that part of my arm, and then put a safety pin on the end of it and thread it through that little channel, and then that will sort of bring it into a nice little elasticated cuff. It's a really pretty look, I think. So I'll do that now. So what I didn't mention prior to this bit of video is the technique for joining the little bit of elastic together once you've sort of threaded it through your sleeve casing. Is I found a really good tutorial on Friday Pattern Company, the sew along for the sagebrush top, and she mentions if you ever have to sew skinny bits of fabric or something, or like elastic together, have a piece of paper underneath it and you'll sew through the paper. In the next video I'll just show you what it looks like, but I just wanted you to be aware that's what I've done. I'm sewing my elastic together. And also what I forgot to say is I do zigzag stitch. So you can see I've zigzagged sort of back and forth to join this little bit of elastic together, and you can see it's attached to the paper, and I'm just going to just rip the paper off, and it tends to just rip around where you've got the stitches. So there's a teeny bit of paper in there, but it just makes it just a bit more straightforward for not losing that tiny bit of fabric. And then I've just pushed it in there, and all I need to do then is sew up my little channel. And that's the sleeves done. And here's the finished dress. So I thought I'd just give you a chat about how I feel about it. So I feel really happy with it actually. I didn't think I was going to like it, but it's absolutely fine. I was worried this would be too big, but in fact that's fine. I really love the sleeves. I'm so glad I've gone with a long sleeve with a little bit of elasticated, and it's loose elasticated, it's not too tight, but just gives a really pretty sleeve. It will be probably a bit too hot to wear in very hot weather because it's being long sleeve, but I feel like it's a really pretty dress. I'm happy with the gathers. You know, I could have gone in a bit, but the whole point of this dress was I needed it to be a bit looser, where I've put a bit of weight on. But I feel like it looks nice. And I'm really happy with the length. I think I might need to start making dresses this length. I think that's quite a nice length on me, rather than at my knee, and sometimes it then starts to feel a bit short, whereas this just gives it a bit of, yeah, really pretty. I'm really happy with that. So everything is hemmed, everything's overlocked, everything's been ironed. Another lovely dress. So in summary, I'm really happy with it. It's taken me a few days to do. I think I did one whole day where I'd got to the point of attaching the bodice to the skirt and didn't really feel very happy with it. But this morning, since attaching the sleeves, feeling happy with the length, attaching my little elastic, I feel really pleased. So thank you for watching another sew along. I hope I've tried to sort of add some different bits, or I hope it's not just a complete replica of the first sew along I did. There haven't really been as many mistakes as there were in the first one, apart from running out of cotton, but that's just that often happens. Just checking here, seeing just where I'm sitting. I think they are fitting. They are sitting nice. Yeah, and I think I repaired the mistake I made with the yellow dress I did previously, with the back being a two-piece. So I'm really happy with that back and the back tie, and this front piece all being one, just on the fold. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it inspires you to make your own dresses, because sometimes things are quick and sometimes they take a bit of time, but it's worth it in the end to feel like you've made something yourself, and something you feel comfortable and happy in. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Thanks for all your lovely feedback from the last sew along, and hope you enjoy this one. See you soon.